Hello everybody, how you all doing today? Christian here. Welcome to another video today. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, for those of you guys who don't know, we just got done doing a deck profile of my Dragon deck profile, and I really do appreciate the feedback on that video. It really definitely means a lot to me, guys. I really do appreciate it. However, it feels very poetic how we just got done doing a deck profile of arguably the most loved commander of the recent memory. We just got doing a profile of everyone's most loved commander. Now we're doing a profile of everyone's least favorite commander. We are doing a deck profile of Atraxa Infect. I know, a lot of people don't like Atraxa. A lot of people hate Infect. I know. Bring on a dislike. Bring on the dislike buttons. Here we go. Yup. Here they are. But there is a reason behind Atraxa Infect. Why I'm doing Atraxa Infect. 80% of it, yes, I won't lie. It does involve the joy, love, the enjoyment and love of killing people by Infect. That is definitely 80% of the reason. The other 20% reason why I'm doing that is because of sentimental reasons as well too. During my older days of playing Magic, I used to play Modern a lot back in the day. Along with Dragons, I also played quite a bit Infect too, and I always had lots of fun playing Infect. And I figured, hey, if I'm going to play a Commander now, I might as well bring all my modern skills from Modern, and then bring over the Commander and see how it goes. And so far, I've had a blast of doing that. So that's why we got Dragon, and that's why we got now Atraxa. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight to the deck profile best we can. If you guys are just here to net deck, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, if you're just here to net deck right here, I did leave the deck list in the description down below for those of you guys who are just here to net deck. I only ask that you drop a like on your way out. It means a lot to me. It's very appreciative. And with that being said, let's get on straight to the profile. So let's get the commander out of the way real quickly. Yup. Atraxa. Yup. Y'all know what she does. Flying villages, death touch, lifelink. And at your end step, you may proliferate. So the main thing, you guys know, we use her ability to proliferate those poison counters on the opponents, so that way we can either take them out by poison, mostly taking them out by poison for win, or also hopefully stack up poison counters. So because we are also playing cards that also benefit from your opponents being poisoned too, so the more counters you being stacked onto your opponent, the more better your tech poison cards can work when you get things rolling. So yeah, no further explanation why Atraxa is so good. I do try and make it a habit to try win without her, and try not to win without her unless I really need her, or she's just there for going for the kill and that's it. But obviously you can't go wrong with her if you're rolling with Infect. So yeah, and before we get to the main deck itself, we do want to get the lands out of the way before we get straight to the meat and potatoes. We are playing right now the 4 Triomes. We are playing all 5. We are playing 4 colors, so it definitely makes sense to play all 4 Triomes. No explanation why the Triomes are good, so you can have all the needed colors you need. And then also for self-explanatory stuff, obviously we have the 4 fetches. I'm sorry, the 6 fetches and the 6 shockwings. No explanation of why you need these cards in your deck. You're playing 4 colors, so unfortunately you are going to need all 6 of these shocks and fetches to have access to all your appropriate colors. And with this deck right here, you can get away with not running too many basics. You could get away with maybe running one of each basic maybe, but with this deck right here, I decided to go with the route of playing three copies of each basic. So we're playing three forests, 3 islands, 3 swamps, and 3 plains. And so we are playing quite a bit of basic lands. We are going to run your basic land rampers. We have your Fabled Passages, Evolving Wilds, and Terramorphic Expanse. I do want to put in a card called Prismatic Vista. That would be a great card for this deck as well too, for more color fixing and more ways to get out your basics. And unlike Evolving Wilds and Terra Expansive, your basics that were brought out by that land
your basics will not come in tapped, with the only cost of paying 1 life, and that's it, just like a fetch lane. Fabled Passage thankfully has the benefit of the lane will not come in tapped. The basic lane will not come in tapped as long as you have 3 other lands. So it doesn't always come up, but it's nice to have that if you happen to be late to the game. So it's definitely very useful to that utility wise. But there is a reason why we're playing quite a bit of basic lanes and quite a bit of ways to ramp out your basics very fast. I'll give you a quick minor spoiler what's in the creature lineup. One of the main reasons why we are playing quite a bit of cards that allow us to get basic lands is because we are playing a card called Evolution Sage, and with Sage, she has the landfall ability of whenever land enters the battlefield, you get to proliferate. So that's why we are playing quite a bit of a basic lane ramping engine, because they're the easiest cards to ramp out from your deck, the easiest the most compared to most cards. And you have your Evolution Sage, you can stack up, you can proliferate and stack up the poison counters very fast. So for example, you could just, if you have your Sage on the board, you could just play your wilds, crack your wilds to get one of your basics, and right there alone, that will immediately allow your Sage to stack up 2 poison counters each to your opponents. And if you have another way to ramp out your lands after that too, that's just an additional 3rd one, and it's just really funny how you can just get out of hand with Evolution Sage if you get her rolling well. So I do want to put in a copy of Prismatic Vista. I do have an idea what card I'm going to take out for that, but right now the card is like $40 right now. I don't have enough money, personal money right now, to get that card myself. I will eventually, once the card gets a little cheaper, or if I have the money to get it. If it doesn't come down, if I really need it, I'll spend the $40, whatever, fuck it. But preferably, I would rather it be cheaper before I pick it up. So, rest of the lands, it's just your staple stuff. Command Tower, Path of Ancestry, Zog Orchard, no explanation needed why these cards are in there. And then we have a copy of Inkmoth Nexus. I really like this card right here. Unfortunately, it does tap for colorless mana, so unfortunately, it will not give you the proper colors you need for any of your stuff right here. But it does have the nice niche where if you really need an infect creature to do infect damage, this bad boy can turn himself into an infect creature with flying. So this, again, it's another way to help you stack up poison counters, and it's really funny when you bust this out into a creature and you just happen to have a way to power up this thing as well too. Say like at least 2 or 3 infect, by 2 or 3 power at least, swing with this, boom, your opponent just took 3 infect damage for no reason. It's very funny when that happens. Rouge Passage, just to give someone with infect the ability to be unblockable. So it's really great. So it's more or less only good if you're going for the kill. Most of the time you don't really use it, but it's nice to have it there as an option if you have the opportunity to go for the game. And then we have One Field of Ruins. This is not a terrible card. I do like it. It does give me the nice ability to sack off an important land my opponent has while giving me color fixing and ramp at the same time. So again, it's another card that combos out with Evolution Sage very well. So you can get rid of some annoying lands like ironically Command Tower, Inkmoth Nexus, or any funny other annoying lands. And then remember, it also allows all your opponents, not just you, all your opponents will each get a basic land. Even opponent whose land you just destroyed, all 4 of you guys will each get a basic land. And unfortunately, it is a bummer that you do give your opponents a partial ramp as well. But if you get rolling and you stock up the poison very well, the landfall from the lands onto your opponent's board shouldn't really matter too much right here. And here's another land I'm currently messing around with. I do kind of like it. It's a nice little niche for certain plays, but it is kind of annoying when it comes to awkward situations. And the final land we're playing is Maze of Itch. It's a really nice card. You are playing Infect, so people are gonna want to kill you first before you stack up your poison counters. So this is a nice niche tech for if your opponent swings at you with that one big creature and you want to save yourself, you can just be like, nope, you're not gonna hurt me. I'm gonna tap this, untap that creature so it's not gonna be able to touch me, and you should be pretty good right there. This is also really good. And also, this doesn't just apply to just when that creature is attacking you. So if you see an opponent who is swinging with a really big creature that happens to benefit from doing combat damage to anyone, say for example Ancient Copper Dragon or something related as such, you could be like, nope, I'm not letting you get those treasures. I'm gonna tap this, stop that dragon from attacking, and you're not gonna get your treasures. No, sir. No Ancient Copper Dragon ability for you. But the downside about this card is, unfortunately, if you read the text right here, it does not say what it taps for. So therefore, unless you or any of your opponents happen to have a card that says all your lands tap for XYZ thing or etc. such, this lane right here will never tap for anything unless someone plays something that says otherwise. So unfortunately, it does take up your lane for turn. It does take up a space what could have been a specific color you need to get to your more important stuff right here. But the trade-off of giving you a slight protection is definitely very nice and helpful. But I'm not sure. Maybe I'll take this card out. Maybe I'll keep it in along with Field of Ruins. I'm not sure. We'll have to see what happens once we're done with further test playing. But other than that, and other than not having a prismatic vista, I am actually pretty happy with what I have for the most part. I will definitely say that. No, the Knuckle Ancient Copper Dragon is not based off the Knuckles card. I think I know what you're talking about, but no, that's not what Ancient Copper Dragon. He has nothing to do with Knuckles, as far as I know. And now, since we're done with the lands, now we can move on to the meat and potatoes, the creatures you guys are here for. So, for the creatures, let's get the Infect creatures out of the way. So, first of all, we have one of my all-time favorite cards of all time, Skithiryx, the Blight Dragon. Flying Infect with tap a black, give himself haste, or tap 2 black to give himself regenerate if he's about to die. Absolutely love this card. If you guys are long-time viewers of my channels and in my content, you guys know, along with Bellfire Dragon, I have a personal sweet spot in my heart for this card right here. I absolutely love this card right here. I've won so many games both with my Dragon deck and my Infect deck with this card right here. It's really fun. I love this card right here, and it's really nice that this card can give you the opportunity to be both hyper offense aggressive and beyond defensive, have him chump block something, regenerate with him, and be good from there on such. I just absolutely love this card right here. So one Skithiryx. And then here are 3 cards that I have a other personal placement in my heart for these guys right here. We have, oh boy, wow, memories. This is actually bringing back memories, dude. We have Glistener Elf, Blighted Agent, and Plague Stinger. I miss playing these cards right here, and ironically these guys right here used to be in my Infect deck back when I used to play in Modern, and it brings joy to me knowing that I'm able to play these cards again, just like old time's sakes, with this deck as well too. So if you guys know, you guys know. There's no explanation why these cards are so good, both Commander and Modern. Just love these guys right here. And next up, we have one Blight Mamba. Love this card as well too. It is a Infect with 1/1 and with Infect, so it's not the greatest. But just like Skithiryx, it also has the ability to allow itself to be regenerated too. So just like Skithiryx, this is a great card for both offense and defense. So your opponent tries to swing at you with like a really big creature, try to kill you quick. You can just be like, nope, I'm gonna chump block with Blight Mamba, use his ability, regenerate him, so he'll stay on the field. And then guess what? I can do it on tap with him, and I'm gonna attack you with 1 Infect right there. So it's really funny how you can play both hyper offense and very defensive with this card right here. It's really funny. And then we have one Ichorclaw Myr. He's a pretty cool card. He's just a 1/1 with Infect. Nothing really too crazy. What's really not, unlike Mamba and other cards as such, he doesn't require any specific color. So you can just have 2 of anything. If you have a Soul Ring, you can just literally just have a Soul Ring and just bring him out just like that. So he's really nice with the 101 generic no color requirement infect dude, but he does have the nice sweet benefit of if he ever gets blocked, he gives himself +2/+2, which is definitely very helpful. So your opponent tries to chump block you with a 2/2, guess what? Your guy will be just fine. You're probably not going to do any infect damage with him, but if your opponent forgets about that ability where he gives him 2/2 while he's being blocked, you can be like, guess what? You just lost your creature, and my guy's still saving. And they're just like, wait, what? And then next turn, this card can potentially do more infect damage later on. It's really funny when that happens. And we also have Ichor Rats. This is really cool. Infect with 2/1. He is pretty costly for a 2/1 with Infect, unfortunately, but his other ability almost makes up for that, actually. So he's definitely very useful. What he does is when he enters the battlefield, all players get a poison counter. Now, unfortunately, this does hurt you too. It's one of the only few Infect cards I've noticed that makes even the owner of the card get at least a poison counter. So you happen to have an opponent who is playing Infect as well. Be very careful, because if you get crazy with him and if you or your opponents end up flickering him quite a bit, you could end up accidentally killing yourself by Infect before you can kill your opponent with Infect. Plus, let's say your opponent flickering him like 3 times, and they could even happen to have a Tainted Strike on them. They could just use your own Infect damage against you, swing with a big creature, Tainted Strike their creature, and you will be the one losing by Infect, which will be very poetic if that happens. And honestly, if that would have happened, I'd be like, you know what? You deserve it. You deserve it. I can't complain. That hasn't happened to me yet. Knock on wood. But that could happen down the road. If it happens to anybody who's watching this video, if you do pull that off on me, I will honestly shake your hand and be like, you have my respect, sir. You have my respect. But Ichor Rats is still a great card nonetheless. He's a 2/1 duder that makes all your opponents get poison at least 1. Plus, he's a 2 with Infect. He's an Infector with 2 power as well. So if he gets ignored, he can definitely swing in at least 2 more Infect damage to your opponent. And then by then, once he does that, and then your opponents eventually kill him, you could just say, you've done your job. And you can't ask for any more than that. Next up, we have Phyrexian Crusader. This card is really cool. So first strike and protection from red and white. So no Path of Exile, no Lightning Bolt, no Lightning Helix or anything crazy like that. With the ability of being Infect, and he has first strike too. So he could so if your opponent tries to chump block him, as long as the creature's toughness is low enough, you could potentially kill that creature before they can even fight back. And they will sometimes forget that this card is protection from white and red, so they won't be able to block with any white and red creatures, and you have to remind them. They're like, wait, well, shit, I pretty much just lost this card. So yeah, funny stuff when that happens. And then we have Lost Legion, or is it Legion, or no, I'm sorry, Lost Leonin. It's an alright card. It is a 2/1 with Infect, so it's not terrible. It does have 2 Infect power for what he's worth, so he's definitely not terrible. But he can definitely be replaceable if that comes to it. But he is nice because he is a white. We are playing Blue Tender, so this just gives you like an extra white creature to have. So your Blue Tender can potentially tap for white as well. So he's definitely not terrible. He's a 2/1. He's a 2-power Infector, so he's definitely not terrible for the most part. But I like him. And next we have Phyrexian Swarmlord. This card is awesome. What he does is at the beginning of, by the way, he's a 4/4 with Infect. But at the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a 1/1 green insect token with Infect for every poison counter your opponents have. Notice, opponents, not one specific opponent like Just Guys will normally say something like that. Opponents. That means all 3 of your opponents at once. So let's say player A has 5 Infect, player B has 4 Infect. 5 plus 4 equals 9. And let's say player 3 is also at 4 Infect. Guess what? 5 plus 4 plus 4 will equal 13 altogether. So guess what? That adds up 13. Guess what? At the beginning of upkeep, you will be creating 13 1/1 Infect dudes. So this will give you, so if your opponents try to stall you out while you're still building Infect damage onto your opponent, this can give you not only a bunch of creatures to chump block if it comes down to that, but also if these creatures get ignored, or if these little tokens get ignored long enough, you can potentially swing out with your tokens and potentially kill at least one person with them right off the bat. It's really cool when that happens. And then we have one Plague Myr. He is a 1/1 with Infect, but he is not. He's also nice with having the beneficial ability of where you can tap him for any colorless mana, if need to be. So most of the time you will be using him to help you ramp out your minor stuff every here and there. He's not terrible other than that, but once you get your stuff going and you don't need the mana ramp from him no more, he does become a nice, interesting 1/1 Infect dude if you need the Infect right there. So if you don't need any mana, swing in with him when your opponents expect it, and start building up those poison counters. And then we have one Flintamite, cool card, Infect 1/1 for 1 black and lifelink as well. So this can definitely inflict poison damage while helping you gain life at the same time. Very useful. And then as you guys will notice, once we get the Toxic engine, we are playing a little bit more Infect than Toxic. One of the main reasons why we do that is because our Infect creatures do a lot better when we resort to attacking, and that's what we really need for interaction here and there. So also one of the main reasons why we play Infect more than Toxic right here is because we have more cards that benefit with your Infect stuff more than your Toxic stuff here, but your Toxic creatures are definitely not obsolete. They definitely do put in the work other than that right here such. So this is why we play Hand of the Praetors. He's Infect. He says other creatures you control with Infect get +1/+1, so all your Infect creatures get slightly stronger, so they'll do more Infect damage if they can get in with their attacks. And he also has a nice ability of whenever you cast a creature spell, you may give one of your opponents a poison counter. So it doesn't make Toxic obsolete. There is some advantages with Toxic creatures versus poison Infect creatures. Infect creatures do a lot better stacking up the Infect counters more than Toxic does, but Toxic has the advantage of typically to inflict poison counters without having to attack all the time compared to Infect. So there is some strengths and weaknesses between both archetypes. We do lean more towards with the Infect stuff because the Infect stuff is more easily utilityable with decks like this, but obviously the Toxic creatures are definitely not going to be obsolete, especially once you see certain creatures in particular. And then next up, for the rest of the Infect creatures, we have a small, we definitely have a few creatures that you can get away with cutting out with the most. They have been kind of power crept over the years, especially the last Infect creatures, especially the last creature I meant to say, but they still have some usage here and there, and I'll explain why these cards are still in their deck right here. So we have one Whispering Spector. It's a 3/3. I'm sorry, it's a 1/1 that costs 3 to play out, so it is kind of hefty. But he has Flying and Infect, which is kind of useful right there. So it potentially avoids him being blocked, so you can swing with him. But he has a nice beneficial ability of when he deals combat damage to a player, or when he's done doing combat damage. What is it? Combat damage? Yeah, when he deals combat damage to a player, yeah, you may immediately sacrifice that creature, and your opponent must discard up to the amount of poison counters they have. So let's say your opponent is at 5 Infect damage. You swing with this while this card is Infect. This will stack up to now 6 Infect. Guess what? After you're done dealing damage and after you're done giving your opponent the 1 Infect, guess what? You get to use this guy's ability, sack him off, and guess what? Since that specific opponent now has 6 Infect damage or poison counters, they now have to discard up to 6 cards. Or at least 6 cards if able to. So if your opponent's playing like a deck that's drawing them a lot of stuff, or tutoring some stuff very fast, or if your opponent is if you're up against a blue player, you can just be like, hey, knock it off, swing with this, get rid of their resources in the hand. And so yeah, it definitely has some uses here and there. It's not as often as it used to, but I still like it. And next we have a copy of Rotwolf. not a bad card. It's a 2/2 infect for only 3 mana, and that's it. So it's not terrible, and definitely has a nice beneficial ability of if he deals combat damage to a creature, you get a free draw, which it's kind of hard to say no to, I won't lie, but it hasn't really came up as much as it used to back then. So I still like him. It's a nice beneficial ability in case that happens, but I wouldn't mind taking it out. But if there is one card that I'm more likely to take out the most of all my infect creatures, it's definitely this guy right here. We are playing a copy of Core Prowler. He's a 2/2 with infect, and he does have the nice ability of when he dies, you get to proliferate. So you chump block with him. You can proliferate for free after he dies. He's 2/2 with infect, so if you're lucky, you could get in there with 2 damage to the infect right out the bat when you least expect it. Then when he dies, he stacks up with the proliferate. But the problem is, while it's nice that he's generic, so he's a colorless, so he just requires 4 of anything he brought up, the problem is he is costly too much. He's 4 mana for a 2/2 at the end of the day. And while it's nice that he's generic and all, 4 mana for a 2/2 that doesn't do anything besides proliferate only when it dies doesn't really seem worth it in today's standards of Magic the Gathering. So why spend 4 mana on something that needs to die in order to benefit from it when there are so many other infect creatures that you could be utilizing this card better in this spot right here. So once I'm done with some further test playing, I will potentially find a better infect or toxic creature to replace him and go from there. I'm not sure yet, but more likely I think he will be cut out eventually down the road. And that is it for the infect creatures. Now we gotta go for the toxic creatures. We have a single copy. We have a Rot Priest. Rot Priest says whenever any of your creatures are targeted, you may deal 1 poison. You may give one opponent 1 poison counter. So she's basically a Glistener Elf. You can swing at someone for one toxic. Now, for those guys who don't know the difference between toxic and infect, infect only cares about how much power your creature has. So, for example, Skithiryx, the Blight Dragon, he has 4 infect. You swing with him, that's 4 infect damage right there. Whereas Rot Priest right here sets her toxic is at 1. That means you're only going to deal one poison damage. So even if you pump her power to 10 power, even if you would win the game right there, you would not win the game because she does not have infect. She has something called toxic. Toxic cares about how much toxic that specific creature has. So since Rot Priest is toxic 1, not infect, that means no matter how many times you power her up somehow, she will only deal 1 infect damage, and that is it. Toxic damage with her toxic, and that's about it. But the cool part about toxic is that unlike infect, where you specifically deal only infect damage and that's it. So again, use Skithiryx with Blight Dragon for example. Since Skithiryx has infect, you will not deal any combat damage. You will only deal infect damage. And the reason why that's useful with toxic is that, let's say you couldn't stack up enough poison counters with your opponents, and your opponent has like 5 infect, but he's at, let's say, 1 life and that's it. Guess what? Since Rot Priest has toxic, if not infect, if you swing with her, you will, since she's not infect, she has toxic, you will deal the 1 combat damage along with the poison damage as well. So poetically and ironically, you can theoretically still win by combat damage if that comes to that, which is kind of funny when that happens. But it hasn't happened to me yet, knock on wood, but eventually, knowing my luck, it is going to happen eventually, knowing my luck. But anyways, Rot Priest is useful because if any of your creatures ever get targeted by something, they play a Path of Exile, they play Assassin's Trophy, they play a card that says that creature can't attack this turn. Guess what? That creature got targeted before that happened. So your Rot Priest will go off and you can deal someone poison damage. So you can deal poison damage to someone who hasn't been poisoned yet, give it to them, so when you start proliferate, you start stacking up poison counters. Or if your opponents happen to not be corrupted yet, give them the right amount of poison, you can make it corrupted. Or if someone happens to be at 9 infect, they forget about this ability, and they can be like, bye bye, you're dead. It's really funny when that happens. And you know what? Since we are playing Infect, since we are playing a deck that is theoretically a deck ran by villains, we might as well go full out with the villain theme as much as we can within reason. So that's why we have a copy of Blighted. That's so funny. For those of you guys who don't know, this is just a SpongeBob expansion set they did a while ago. Plankton is basically just Sprout Deflector Might, actually. So what Plankton, aka Deflector Might, is, he's Toxic 1. Unfortunately, he can never block, so even if he's untapped and he doesn't have summoning sickness, unfortunately, no matter what, Plankton can never be able to block. But Plankton does have Toxic 1, and he has a really nice ability of Phyrexian White and tap it, which means that you need to tap a white or pay 2 life instead while you tap Plankton. And when you do that, you not only give target creature Toxic 1, but also you give that said creature hexproof of any color of your choice. So going back to something like Path of Exile, let's say you have your Atraxa with your Plankton together. Your opponent tries to Assassin's Trophy your Plankton. Oh no, Plankton, I'm sorry. They try to Assassin's Trophy your Atraxa. You could be like, nope, pay 2 life, tap Plankton, target by Atraxa. I'm going to declare whatever color you just that spell had. Guess what? Atraxa is now safe. So it not only adds a little protection from that, but also it also gives said creature Toxic 1 as well too. So for example, if you use Plankton's ability to target Atraxa, Atraxa will be at Toxic 1. So when you swing with Atraxa, not only you'll be dealing the 4 damage with her regular ability, with your lifelink, all that such, but since she has Toxic 1, you will also deal at least 1 poison damage as well, which is definitely very helpful in the long run. And on top of that, this also stacks up with your Infect creatures too. So for example, let's say you have, where the heck is he? There he is, Glistener Elf. So let's say you have Glistener Elf together. Since Toxic and Infect are 2 different mechanics that do very similar things, but with their own independent functions, if that makes sense, you can use Plankton's ability, target your Glistener Elf, and Glistener Elf will not only still be at 1 Infect, but he'll also be at Toxic 1 at the same time. So you use Plankton's ability to target your Glistener Elf, and you swing someone with the Glistener Elf while he has Toxic 1 and Infect, and that's all, and he's still at 1 power. Guess what? If he hits, not only your opponent's getting a poison counter from the 1 Infect, but they're also getting the 1 poison damage from the Toxic 1 your Plankton gave to your Glistener Elf, for example. So it's really nice how Plankton can actually work ironically well with your Infect card as well too, and also he combos off with your Rot Priest too, because Rot Priest doesn't care who targets your creatures, whether it's you or one of your opponents. So if you use, so let's say you have these three together. If you use Plankton's ability, let's say you target the Glistener Elf, and your Glistener Elf gets a Toxic 1 and hexproof of, let's say, white, so you don't get Path of Exile. Glistener Elf will combo off, give someone poison, and let's say you're attacking player 1, you give player 1 the 1 toxic poison counter thanks to your Glistener Elf, or I'm sorry, your Rot Priest, must say, and then Glistener Elf can swing at that same person with both the 1 Infect and the 1 poison Toxic 1 thanks to the Plankton right here, and then right out the bat you can do like 3 poison damage to someone right out the bat. It's really funny how you can pop off with combos like that for days. It's really cool how synergy like that works out with this deck right here. And then next up we have 1 Bloated Contaminator. Trample Toxic 1. Whenever Bloated Contaminator deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. So he's a 4/4 with Trample and Toxic 1 for only 3 mana, which is really powerful as it is. And with the bonus of both him being Toxic 1 and having the ability to proliferate as you deal combat damage, really is a really nice combo right here. So let's say he attacks a player, that player takes the 4 damage and the 1 toxic right here, you get him on 1 poison, and then you stack up with his proliferate. So by himself, he could theoretically do 2 infect damage to 1 person by himself, while still stacking up on the other players as well. It's really cool. And then this is a cool card I just recently put in the deck. I really think it's funny and cute. I love it. One copy of Bloodroot. Toxic. He's a 3/3 for 3, which is pretty. So he evens out right off the bat, which is impressively. But what's really cool about him is he's Toxic 2, which means if you do combat damage with him, not only are you dealing 3 damage, but you're dealing 2 poison damage to your opponent as well, which is a nice nifty combo right here. But what's really cool about him is not only he has the ability where when he enters, you and target opponent each get a treasure. Normally, you don't ever want to give your opponent treasures for obvious reasons. But this little squirrel has a final ability that makes up for that, and it's really hilarious. He also has the ability of whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-creature token, that player gets 2 poison counters. So if you play, going back to what I said about Ancient Copper Dragon earlier, let's say your opponent used Ancient Copper Dragon, they got, let's say, a 15, they made 15 treasures, and for whatever reason they did not crack any of their treasures. Your turn begins. You could just be like, oh, hey, Ancient Copper Dragon player, those are some nice treasures right there. It'd be a real shame if I had a squirrel that said if you try to sack your treasures, you get 2 poison for no reason. So this is a great way to not only shut off treasure decks, this can also shut off other decks that plays clue tokens, food tokens, and other tokens that are non-creatures as well. So this will definitely shut off some annoying decks here and there, while also giving yourself a treasure that you could sack off to do filler plays as well. So which is really funny when that happens. And then we have a copy of Contaminated Grafter. This is a kind of a cool card right here. Trample Toxic 1 for only 5 mana. So 5/5 for Trample Toxic 1, not bad. But just like Bloated Contaminator, but a little bit better, he says whenever 1 or more creatures you control deals combat damage to a player, 1 or more players proliferate. So unlike Bloated Contaminator, who only cares about him, who cares specifically he has to deal combat damage in order for you to get your proliferate, Contaminator Grafter, he only cares about any creature. Doesn't matter what creature. As long as a creature was able to hit at least 1 opponent, you will get your free proliferate. And on top of that, he also has a nice effect where at the beginning of your end step, if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, draw a card, then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So your opponent has at least 3 poison during your end step. You not only get a free draw, but if you happen to have an extra land in your hand, so you can start ramping out your stuff a lot faster, this will definitely help you out in the long run too. Especially as I mentioned earlier during my land section, this will also combo all with cards like your evolution stage, so you can get the landfall trigger of your evolution stage and proliferate right there as well. So yeah, I love this guy. He does things. And then last but not least, for your Toxic engine right here, these are like your backup boss creatures of the deck as well. We have 1 copy of the Doom Hive. This card's pretty cool. I really like this card right here. It's 5 mana for 3/3. She does have menace. Unfortunately, she only has Toxic 1 for 5 mana, and it requires 3 different colors as well too. But even then, she's not terrible. She also gets +1/+1 for each poison counter that all your opponents have. So just like Phyrexian Swarmlord, if your opponent, let's say player A, player B are at 5 poison, and then player 3 is at 4 poison, guess what? That's 14 power added to your creature right here. So she becomes a massive 17/17. Unfortunately, she has Toxic 1, so no matter how much damage you're doing with her, she's only going to deal 1 toxic damage as well. But as I mentioned earlier, there is going to be like a rare occasion where you actually don't mind winning by combat damage, and if that ends up happening, guess what? She can pump herself really hugely. So your opponent let's say player A, player B are both at 9 Infect, but they have stuff protecting them from you being able to attack into them, but you have another opponent who's like, let's say 3 poison, but you want to finish him off because he's showing signs to be threatening. Guess what? You can use her to just swing into that said player, and take out that player if need be. You do lose out a little bit of power if that happens with her, but it's a nice option for that. But the main thing we use her for is for her ability of when she enters the battlefield, I create, what the heck is that? I just have my position. There it is. You create 3 of the Phyrexian mites who cannot attack, or I'm sorry, who unfortunately cannot block. So she gives you 3 bodies for more chump blockers, and she gives you an option of having more creatures to attack with to potentially end your opponents right there if need be. So she's definitely very useful. And last but not least, for the toxic engine right here, we have a copy of Scion of Atraxa. I actually do kind of like her. She's flying villages and toxic 2, so she's 5 mana by the way. So it's a flyer with villages and toxic 2, so that's not terrible right there. But the main thing we use her for, which is why a lot of people do use her as a commander instead. I do like her too, but I prefer Atraxa more. But this card's cool too. She says at the beginning of your end step, each opponent who has 3 or more poison counters exiles the top cards of their library face down. You may look at the cards exiled and pay mana as if it was any color. So if your opponent's got like really big spells, and remember this happens every end step. So during each of your end steps, if every opponent who's at least 3 poison counters, you can start stealing stuff from there and use their powerful stuff against them. And as she says, it attacks for any color. So even if you take a mono red card, and you take if you steal like a blasphemous act, just guys will a gamble. Guess what? You get to use those cards and use those red cards to get your opponent, or even other really good cards to get them as well too. And it's really funny when you nab like really good staple cards from their decks and use them against them. It's really funny. And that is it for the Toxic and Infect engine. For the rest of the remaining creatures, this is a section of creatures that proliferate a lot. We have the one Thunderbird, which is kind of an old school proliferate cards from back in the day. So we have one of the bird that allows you to proliferate every time it does combat damage. And then we have one Vorinclex Monstrous Raider. This is a cool card. This will allow you to double up your poison counters every time you deal poison damage to your opponents, and if your opponents happen to be also running counters as well, you reduce those counters against your opponents as well. So very useful. And then, as I kept on showing many times, we have creatures that proliferate every time something happens. Here's the evolution stage that I keep showing off like at least twice already. As I kept mentioning like twice already, land enters the battlefield, you can do free proliferate. And then we have Flux Channeler. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, I may proliferate. And then we have Enable. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, I proliferate. So you have a little small proliferate engine to help you get your poison counters very, very fast, very nicely. And also, what I forgot to mention, I am playing a small amount of planeswalkers, a very small amount of planeswalkers. So you proliferate while you mainly want your proliferate to build your poison counters, but you also want your proliferate to help out your 2 planeswalkers as well too. And those 2 planeswalkers will definitely help you out in the long run too. So we got these guys right here. So that's it for the proliferate creatures. And finally to wrap up the creatures before we move on to the rest of the deck, we have just 3 creatures that just ramp, and that's it. Birds of Paradise, no explanation needed. Delighted Halfling, and Blue Tender. Blue Tender is not terrible. As I mentioned in my Dragon deck, I haven't really been using Blue Tender really that often. Just like Core Prowler, I am thinking about taking this card out of this deck right here as well. Just like what I did with my Dragon. So I don't know how often I'm going to be using this card much longer. But maybe it has a chance. Maybe I can give it one more chance. Maybe it will be good in this deck, but won't be good in Dragon. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And that is it. Finally, we are done with the creatures. Now for the planeswalkers. We're playing 2 planeswalkers, and that's it. We have a single copy of a Johnny, Super Agent. The cool part about Johnny and the next planeswalker right here, they also have Phyrexian costs in their mana cost right there too. So you can pay life to bring them out, but the downside by doing that is that they are losing a little bit of loyalty instead of the original loyalty we have right here. So for example, a Johnny right here, if I were to pay 3 mana and 2 life instead of 4 mana, a Johnny would be at 2 loyalty instead of 4. But you are, like I said, you are playing cards that allow you to proliferate. So if you proliferate quite a bit of times with Johnny on the battlefield, you will definitely pop out with a Johnny's ultimate. And this is the main thing why we play a Johnny for. So most of the time, I will pay the full cost. So that way, when I proliferate only twice, that way a Johnny can get his ultimate right out of the bat. And what Johnny's ultimate is, for those guys who don't know, his ultimate is pay 6, you get an emblem with, whenever you cast a creature or planeswalker spell, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. So right out the bat, and remember, this emblem stays permanently. So right out the bat, you can just start stealing out the game really quickly, really fast, once a Johnny gets out of hand. His other 2 abilities aren't terrible. He does have a nice +1 ability to help you search for more creatures, which is not a bad ability as its own right. So if it happens, if you need to play Johnny to get a creature, sure, awesome, definitely worth it in the long run. But mainly, you want to activate your Johnny's ability for the turn until you're able to pop off your ultimate once you pop off your combos. And then our last planeswalker, we're playing for Vraska's Betrayal Sting. So just like a Johnny, she has a Phyrexian cost in her mana cost. But if you do that, if you end up paying 2 life and 5 mana instead of 6 mana, she does start out with 4 loyalty instead of 6 right here. But that's okay, because her first passive allows you to proliferate and I believe draw a card. Yeah, draw a card at a cost of losing a life, and you proliferate. So she can help herself to make up for paying the 5 mana instead of 6 if needed be. But just like a Johnny, the main thing you want to reserve her for is for her ultimate. Her ultimate is target opponent. Essentially, to keep it simple, if your opponent is less than 9 infect poison counters, she instantly turns target opponent's infect counters to 9. So if there's one opponent who has somehow invaded getting any poison counters from you in a long run, let's say they're at 3 or 4 poison, guess what? You drop her, use her ultimate. If you proliferate enough, use her ultimate. Guess what? Get that opponent at 9 infect, and guess what? When that happens, all you gotta do is just let Atraxa finish the job, and boom, that player is dead. So that's it for the creatures, and that is it for the planeswalkers finally. Now for the instants and sorceries finally. So before we get to the instants and sorceries that work with the poison stuff right here, let's get the minor stuff out of the way real quickly, the obvious stuff that's also crucially important. So we have 3 visits. We are playing a small land ramp package as well too. We are playing green, might as well. We definitely need our lands for specific colors. And as I mentioned, for the out-team time, they do combo off with Evolution Stage very nicely. Plus, they also combo off with Flux Chandler, I think her name was too. So you can play this while you have Flux Chandler, play this, get your land with this. Flux Chandler will allow you to proliferate, and Evolution Stage will allow you to proliferate at the same time, which is a nice nifty little combo right there. So for the small lane package, a land ramp package, we have 3 visits, Farseek. Hey, Dragon Magic Dan, what's up? You caught me a good time. I'm doing a deck profile actually. This is gonna make YouTube. Say hi, YouTube. Anyways, so 3 visits, Farseek, Nature's Lore, and Rampant Growth. So your basic run-of-the-mill land package. Nothing really too extraordinary to really talk about. And now, actually, before we get to the poison stuff, the instant sorceries that do poison stuff in here, let's get the other staple stuff out of the way really quickly. Obviously, you're playing Infect. People are going to want you dead. They're going to want to take you out as soon as they possibly can. So you definitely want at least some interactions to fight against your opponents every now and then if you need to. So we are running a small staple package for interactions, all that such. So for the obvious stuff, we have Swords of Plowshare. You're playing Infect. You don't care how much life your opponent has. You're only trying to win by Infect. So Swords of Plowshare. Path of Exile, and Assassin's Trophy. Just your run-of-the-mill, basic good, target removal stuff if you need that too. Be removal. And we are playing a small counter spell section 2. Nothing really too extraordinary. We have a there you go. We have a single copy of Bring the Ending and Corrupted Resolve. These are just nice for flavor text, and they just happen to work well if your pawns are poisoned. They pretty much just say your pawns can't activate response, or I guess no, they can still counter this. I'm sorry, I misspoke. What I meant to say was, they pretty much counter anything as long as they're poisoned, and there's nothing that says you can't counter them or whatever such. So they're good for flavor text, but if need be, I might end up taking these out for more appropriate, better counter spells as well too. If I'm paying 2 mana for these cards right here, I might as well be playing either Mana Drain or Offer You Can't Refuse or something related to such. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'll take these out for them, but these are good for the meantime. Just generic good counter spells for 2. Nothing too much to boast about. And we are playing some board wipes. Just 2. Farewell. No explanation by Farewell. And 1 copy of Merciless Eviction. This card is funny. While it's not as impactful as Farewell, this has some nice utility on its own right too. Now, unfortunately, you can't choose all modes just like Farewell, but it does have the nice benefit of you could choose to destroy, or not destroy, you can choose exile all of everything that hurts you the least. So if you're up against an enchantment deck, guess what? You're exile all of the enchantments. Bye bye enchantment. You have like only 1 enchantment in this deck, and that's it. So the enchantment part doesn't really hurt you that much. Doesn't really hurt you at all. Planeswalkers, I'm not playing any Planeswalkers except for like 2, and that's it. So the Planeswalker part will not really hurt me too much. And artifacts kind of don't do too much for me. So the only real thing that would really hurt me is really the creature part. But if you do resort to the creature part, just obviously play this if you have no creatures. But it's nice to have a little backup board wipe along with your Farewell in case things get a little nasty. And before we get to the poison spells, let's get the artifacts out of the way. I promise I'm trying to speed through this as best I can. So for the artifacts, we have Soul Ring because of Soul Ring, no explanation there. Arcane Signet because it's Arcane Signet. Farewell Stone because it's Farewell Stone. And here's where things get a little bit interesting. Oh yeah, that's an enchantment. Hold on, we'll deal with that later. We'll showcase the enchantment later on. So anyways, Farewell Stone, Arcane Signet, self-explanatory stuff. We're also playing some interesting artifacts in this deck right here. We have Sword of Truth of Justice. I find it very ironic that this is a villains deck, and we're playing a card called Truth of Justice, Sword of Truth of Justice, in a villain deck, which is funny. Anyways, so Sword of Truth of Justice, it gives equipped creature +2/+2 and protection from blue and white. So again, it's another way to help you avoid getting hurt by Path of Exile or as such. But it also has a nice ability when the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you not only get to put +1/+1 counter on that said creature, but you get to also proliferate. So obviously you're going to use this on your Atraxa most of the time. You put this on your Atraxa, Atraxa's going to gain a counter, and then this is going to allow you to proliferate. So Atraxa will gain 2 +1 counters. While on top of that, this will also allow you to stack up not only your loyalty counters with your Planeswalkers, your only 2, but also obviously the poison counters. So yeah. Also, this does come out with your Infect creatures pretty well, and so you combine this with Glistener Elf. Since Glistener Elf will have 3 power thanks to this, you swing Glistener Elf, you deal 3 damage with Glistener Elf, Infect damage with your Glistener Elf, and then immediately your sword will pop off, give your Glistener Elf another counter plus additional 1 because of the proliferate, while stacking that 1 poison damage to that opponent and other opponents as well. So yeah, a very powerful card in a deck like Infect. And we have 1 Glistener Sphere. It's an okay card. I kind of like it. When it enters, you get to proliferate, which is very helpful. It is annoying that it comes in tapped, but it does have the nice ability where it taps for any color, but if at least one opponent is corrupted, you get 3 mana of that one choice of color of you want, of whatever color you definitely need, and you can definitely piss right off whoever the fuck you are. Fuck off. Well, that's gonna be fun putting on YouTube. Anyways, so this card, what he does. So if your opponent has that three poison counters, and you need 3 green mana, this will give you 3 green mana. If you need 3 white mana, this will give you 3 white mana. So this will definitely help you ramp out pretty nicely, especially if your Atraxa that gets killed and you need to pay for the commander tax. So this will definitely help you out with the commander tax as well. And then lastly, for the artifact engine, we have Staff of Completion. You're never going to use the pay 1 life to destroy target permanent you own. You're definitely never going to do that unless something weird happens. It does have the nice ability to pay 2 life to add 1 mana of any color, which does come up sometimes, but mainly we use this card for the ability to proliferate as well. So instead of tapping mana, if we have this on the battlefield, we can just tap this and pay 3 life at any time to proliferate as well. And so again, another way to stack up your counters. And if you have enough mana to spend, or if you get your combos rolling well, you can untap this by tapping 5 mana. And if you have an opportunity to go for a game by proliferate again, you could just tap your 5 mana, untap this bad boy, and boom, all your opponents just lost Infect right there around the spot. So it's definitely very useful for that utility right there. Alright. That's it for the artifacts. Now finally the kill spells. The poison spells that we all came here for, along with the infect creatures. Alright, so we are playing some instant sorceries that allow us to put poison or proliferate to your opponents. So for the poison spells that directly give poison to someone, we have 1 prologue of Phyrexis. This will give all your opponents poison counter each and draw a card for only a blue and 2 of anything. It's speed 2, so very useful right there. We have Infectious Inquiry. This will allow me to draw 2 cards and lose 2 life and give each opponent a poison. So in exchange of 2 life, not only can draw 2 cards, but pull poison everybody. Yay! More poison to my opponents. And then this is kind of technically an outbreak, not outbreak. This is technically a board wipe too. But the main thing we use this for is obviously put the poison on someone. We have 1 Phyrexis Outbreak. Each opponent gets a poison counter, and each creature that your opponents control get -1 and -1 until end of turn for each poison counter that the controller has. So for example, if player A, after this card resolves, if player A is at 6 poison before this card was played, this will bring it to 7, and guess what? All that creatures will be at -7, -7. So the longer this game prolongs, the more of an absolute board wipe this becomes. This adds up not only a poison damage to all your opponents, maybe even potentially kill someone if it comes down to that, but also this can wipe off a lot of creatures that opponent controls. Really funny. And then last, for the poison directly to your opponents, we have Vraska's Fall. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker and gets a poison counter. So it's another card that bypasses protection, all that such, while also giving your opponents poison as well too. So definitely very useful in the long run as well right there. So that's it for the spells, the instant sorceries that directly do poison to the opponents. And we are playing a lot of spells that do mostly proliferate. So for the spells that mostly proliferate, we have Thrusting Roots. I can either proliferate for only 1 green. I can either proliferate or search my library for a basic green, for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in my hand. It's nice for the addition to get a land if you're like land screwed. This is nice to be like, hey, I'm land screwed. Hey, I got this card, worst case scenario, so I can get a basic land. But mainly, you mainly want to use this card to proliferate for only 1 green. But it also has nice utility to, again, search out a basic land if need be. And we have, there it is. We're also playing a, oh, I'm sorry, let me do that. There you go. We also have a copy of Drowning Ichor. This is technically a target removal, like Path of Exile. It only does, but it does poison -4/-4. So there's not a lot of creatures you could theoretically kill with this. And unfortunately, it's only sorcery speed. So unfortunately, it's a bummer where you can't take advantage of certain gameplays. You can't go, oh, this creature did combat damage and that creature got damage. Play this at its speed, potentially kill that creature. Unfortunately, no, you can't do that. But hey, for 2 mana, I can kill something with 4 toughness or less. It's definitely not terrible, and it also allows you to proliferate at the same time. So definitely not the worst card ever. And then we have Experimental Aquary. Look at the top 3 cards of my library, put one of them in my hand, and rest of them by my library, and in any order, and then I get a free proliferate for only blue and one of anything, which is pretty good. And then we have Unnatural Restoration. So if I have a permanent card in my graveyard I really want back to do something particular, or if I get land screwed, if I'm lane screwed, I need to get a shock lane back, a fetch lane back to fix my lane ratio. I can do that. But mainly we use this card to bring back either an important creature we want back to do something particular, or use anything on top of that also while having the beneficial ability to proliferate if that needs to be. And then we have a copy of Steady Progress. It is 3 blue. It is blue and 2 of anything, but it is an instant speed, so you can do this during your opponent's turn, and then draw a card and proliferate at the same time. Draw into what you need faster, and then potentially do a free proliferate as well to your opponent's poison counters as well. And last for the instant sorceries, we have Grex's Gambit. So you can either pay 4 mana or 3 mana and 2 life instead to draw 2 cards and proliferate at the same time. Now, unfortunately, it is a sorcery, so it is sorcery speed. But the cool part about this card is you don't have to tap your blue mana. If you don't mind paying 2 life, you can just pay 3 mana instead, pay 2 life. So if for whatever reason you get unlucky and don't get any of your blue mana stuff, no worries, as long as you have 3 mana to spend, like a Soul Ring or something. So turn 2, theoretically, if you get land screwed, if you get like a Forest Soul Ring. So turn 1, Soul Ring, and then Forest Soul Ring. And then turn 2, when here comes no land, okay, guess what? Just tap your Forest, tap your Soul Ring for all that for your colorless, then pay 2 life, boom, you got your Gambit going to allow you to draw your 2 cards and hopefully draw your additional lane that you need right there. So it definitely helps you out in the early game too if you get unlucky. And finally, that is it for the instant sorceries and all that jazz. Finally, to wrap up the entire deck, to wrap up this deck profile, we're playing only 1 enchantment, and that is it. We are playing a copy of Norn's Decree. This card is really cool. I love playing this card when opponents least expect it. And it's always funny when my opponents forget how good this card is sometimes. What this card says is whenever 1 or more creatures with an opponent controls deals combat damage to a player with a poison counter. I'm sorry, when 1 or more creatures an opponent controls deals combat damage to you, so they deal damage to me, they attack into me, that player gets a poison counter. So eventually, your opponents are going to want your head on silver platter, because obviously you're playing Infect. So when that happens, you can just play this, and at pass turn, they attack with you or stuff, and you just be like, hey, by the way, you get a poison counter. And they look at you and be like, what? And they're like, oh shit. And then you just get a free poison counter onto your opponents, and potentially use that poison counter to definitely kill that opponent really fast the next turn. But it also has a nice ability of whenever a player attacks, if 1 or more players being attacked are poisoned, the attacking player draws a card. So this is good for some more politic talking. So you can just be like, hey buddy, I know you need to draw a card. Hey, Billy over here is poisoned. My card says if you attack Billy, you will get to draw a card. So this could definitely play some nice politicking games right here. Hopefully get your opponents off your back. Very unlikely it's not going to happen. But on the rare chance the politicking does come in your favor, you can just remind your opponents that, hey, just to let you know, this card says that if you attack a player who is poisoned, you can draw a card. So this will hopefully get less creatures off your back as well. and more after your opponent, heavily they go after each other, because this also allows your opponent to draw a card. Now, this also helps you too, so if you attack a opponent who's currently poisoned, you get to draw a card too, but remember, this also the second part also applies to your opponent. So your opponent doesn't want to attack you for whatever reason. If they're doing like some sort of politicking deal among themselves and they want to attack each other to help each other draw cards, they will do that. So that way they'll attack each other, help each other draw cards, so they can fight it out to you. So definitely be on the lookout when your opponents do that. And yeah, guys, that was my Atraxa Infect deck for Bracket 2. By the way, I forgot to mention this. I made the same mistake with Dragon, and I made the same mistake here too. I forgot to mention what bracket this deck is. More likely, this deck is more like a Bracket 2 or 3, I think. There's no game changers right now. I am thinking about putting game changers. I'm not sure what to put in yet. I haven't fully committed any ideas. I think considering how hated Infect is, I think Atraxa is pretty much better off staying at Bracket 2, I think. Maybe if I'm feeling a little ballsy, I'll put in some game changers and go after Bracket 3. I'm not too sure, but I don't know. We'll see what happens in the near future. But anyways, guys, that is my Atraxa deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I do appreciate the feedback. If you guys want to give me feedback, it really means a lot to me. And with that being said, dudes, I'll see you all around, and I'm out. Bye, peace, and I love yous.